Good morning. It's the appointed time for the meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board. We'll call the meeting to order and want to begin with this brief announcement. Item 9 on the agenda is a recommended resolution relating to the final plans and specifications for the racecourse windscreen at the river. The River Subcommittee decided to defer that item for 1 month as they did further study, and so we're going to strike that from the agenda for this morning's meeting. Item number 9. Item 2, you've been furnished with copies of the minutes of our meeting of August the 22nd. Are there additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move approval.
It's been moved that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
And seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Now, item 3 is the MAPS 3 Revenue and Expenditure Report. David, you want to share the good news with us?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet, in its usual form, the Revenue and Expenditure Report for the period ending June 30th, 2013. And you can see on the revenue side for the month, we have $9,092,877. For the fiscal year, we have $104,986,831 for a total revenue for the program of $309,152,301. On the expenditure side, you can see the various expenditures for the different programs, and for the month, it totals to $2,991,850. For the fiscal year, we have $17,035,522 for a total program of $29,902,861 on the expenditures. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Michael Adams, do you have any comments for us?
I do not.
This must be good news then. Are there other questions? Then shall we need to have a motion to receive the report?
I move accept the report.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the report as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is received. Item 4, David, you want to tell us about this?
Item 4 is recommend approval of the Oklahoma City Boulevard design between the MAPS 3 Downtown Public Park and MAPS 3 Convention Center. As I described in the two subcommittees that have seen this, that being the Park Subcommittee and the Convention Center Subcommittee, what this really is a conceptual design. The item should have had that one other word in there, so it was recommend approval of the Oklahoma City Boulevard conceptual design. This is a plan that's been looked at by, as I said, the Park Subcommittee and the Convention Center Subcommittee, and some of this came out from the coordination meetings and also the design process between the two projects. And the idea is that the street, the boulevard, the future boulevard between the two projects would not be the divided road that you've seen with the big grass median, that this section, just this piece that you have in your packet, the piece between Robinson and Hudson, would be a smaller street, more narrow. At the actual intersections, there would be no parallel parking. It would bulb out, if you will, so that you have as narrow of a distance, or short of a distance, as you could get to cross through there. And also what this allows is the design and continuity of the park to flow across that boulevard and into the convention center and vice versa, so that it seems like a continuous area in there and doesn't feel so much like a street. And much like what I realized we have in front of the Civic Center over here yesterday and going to the Transit Subcommittee meeting, if you walk through there, you walk across there, and it's actually a travel way for automobiles, but it feels like a walkway. So that's very much what we're looking at here. Now, understanding that the boulevard is somewhere still in the future, there's still a lot of decisions to be made, but what we would like is for this group to say, yes, this is what we want, and we can send that on to ODOT to give them some direction as to how this would look. We're not addressing anything else on the boulevard, this is really just a picture, if you go east of Robinson or if you're west of Hudson, of what's been contemplated. So we're not locking anything in, and this is just a beginning point for that. So with that lengthy explanation, I'll answer any questions.
Mike?
Yes, Tom, thank you so much. I just want to say that I do have a problem with this, and I voiced it at the Park Subcommittee meeting. I know, Tom, you've heard it, but I think people should understand what my concern is, and I guess the best way to explain it is to kind of, if you can think about walking across that street. Let's say you're a parent with a child. For 20 years, I worked in a building on 6th Street between Hudson and Walker. And for years, it was a one-way street. And then, as we all know, when the downtown streets were changed, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess now, many of those streets were turned into two-way streets. And I watched mothers, usually mothers, and children fail to, now again, remember, this is one block between Walker and Hudson, and the parking lot was kind of in the middle of that block on the other side of the street for the clinic. And I watched many times, because my office was overlooking that, mothers and children try to navigate the traffic going across that street. And if there had been a median, they would have been able to stop halfway through that street and then cross. And there was a part of me that bothered me that they didn't walk to the end of the block and cross with the light. And remember, that was between Hudson and Walker. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't do it. And I even tried to get a warning flashing light for the city to put in for traffic to be aware and kind of slow down, but that didn't work. Couldn't get that done. My point, of course, is that I think this boulevard, that area, that's actually much longer than that. It's actually double the size between Hudson and Walker. It's between Robinson and Hudson. My fear is, again, someone with a family walking across that street and not going to the end of the block, walking across that street and having to navigate 4 lanes of traffic. I understand the side, the perspective, if it was all flat and for events that could spill over and what have you, but it's because of that particular concern that I have that I think trumps anything else for me, that I think it's a bad idea. But I certainly understand the other side, but for me, because of that issue, it's something that I don't think is a good idea.
Isn't it envisioned that the speed limit would be pretty slow in that area? 25, 30 is what I understand? So you're slowing the traffic down, plus you've got the bottlenecks that slow them when they come into that. So I think that would help, but I understand your comments. Yeah,
and Zane, of course, all that's true. The speed limit where I was 30 miles an hour, so I understand what you're saying. But nevertheless, I just think to caution on the side of safety, for me, it's just something that I don't think it's a good idea.
For members, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, just wondering out loud to follow up on Mike, was any thought given, I notice in the drawings that we have the sections west and east of this 2-block strip have a 25-foot median, pretty wide stretch, tree-lined median. Was any thought given to having a small median, 3 or 4 feet at least, so that it could address Mike's concern that if somebody's trying to navigate the entire street, they at least have a safe spot to get to in the middle that will allow them a little bit of distance on either side from the traffic?
It's been my experience, though, that the small medians are actually more dangerous because people do get out there and they feel confident that they're safe, and then a child or somebody can step off of a really small median. I might add,
why you're not a traffic engineer.
right. Well, I don't appreciate in my experience. The other thing to remember is the intersections will be signalized with pedestrian signals and crosswalks, and then we are contemplating a mid-block crossing also.
For the members of the board that are not on the two committees that heard the presentation, maybe a brief explanation. We asked Eric Winger of the Public Works, attended both of those meetings. He gave us a pretty complete update on where we are on the entryway from the west and the east and what the boulevard's going to look like as it enters the downtown area, and talked about the speed zones at each one of those places, and a walkway in the middle between the two blocks. So with all due respect to Mike's opinion, and he has some personal experiences that bear on it, I think we all listened to that clearly. I would want the other members of the committee to know that all of those factors were taken into account by both the Convention Center Subcommittee and the Park Subcommittee, and they asked us to move this forward with their recommendation. Obviously, it wasn't unanimous from the Park Subcommittee, but anyway, I wouldn't want you to think that this has not been fully discussed and a complete explanation made about it. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say, certainly, we did have a very spirited conversation about this yesterday at the Park Subcommittee on very important levels. As anything, there's always two perspectives to look at it from, and neither one are right nor wrong. They're two different perspectives. One of the concerns that some of us had with the median in that area, I've verbalized it, that I often find challenges where I'm driving through an area where pedestrians are crossing and there are a median with trees, because all of a sudden I realize that what I thought maybe a few feet forward was a tree is actually a person getting ready to cross, and I might not always be expectant of that. So I appreciate in that area having full view of what's going on. The second thing is, remember, this is a concept. The drawing that you see in front of you is not ODOT's design. It's a conceptual rendering that Hargraves was asked to provide to give ODOT some kind of benchmark, to give us some kind of idea of what would be possible. When Eric Winger spoke at both the Convention Center Subcommittee and the Park Subcommittee, ODOT hasn't even requested this yet. It probably will be December before they're working on it, but Eric, as a part of this project, wants to be proactive and get these things together from our perspective so that when ODOT asks for it, we have something to hand forward. He also asked that if we had suggestions and input between now and I would say in the next couple of weeks, that we do forward it on to the MAPS office and make those considerations, because maybe we could end up with 2 different crosswalks or 3. And certainly whatever we end up with, crosswalks are a little bit new in Oklahoma City. It's going to take some education, as it has for bike lanes downtown. But we all have to look at the big picture, and certainly it's our job to review and recommend with all those facts. So I would like to move that we look at this as a concept, as we're asked, pass it forward, put in our suggestions, and then come back and see the review from ODOT.
Just one final thought, Tom, and that is, again, I want everyone to understand, I think I made myself clear, that what trumps anything and everything for me in this issue is, I think, being conservative and cautious in terms of safety. As Bob suggested, I think, a narrower, more narrow, I don't know the correct language here, median that doesn't have trees. We see mediums all the time that has different kind of landscaping and doesn't have to have trees, and can be a little, not as broad as would necessary if it had trees, for instance. And as far as the concept, I agree with you, Kim. And for me, the concept is not to have a medium for the reasons I stated. And I'll shut up now, Tom.
No, I want you to say whatever you want to. I do want to say, just as a point of order, that we've had a motion, so I'm looking for a second, and then we'll have discussion. Is there a second to the motion? Bob has seconded the motion. Now, is there further discussion?
I had a question. It's defined here as an event plaza, so is it envisioned as being closed from time to time for certain events?
Well, David may want to speak to that. I would just say that's been discussed, and there are differences of opinion. I'd say that people on the Park Committee think that'd be a great place to maybe have an art festival. But the whole idea is to slow down traffic in that very key area between the convention center site and the park area. And so all of this is to narrow down, make it more safe, and slow down traffic that would be coming in from the outside. There are people that might not think it was a great idea to close it ever to traffic. And so that's still a debate that's
It seems
out
like
there.
that's part of the whole discussion on the boulevard. I mean, if the boulevard's intended to be, a traffic passage through downtown, then that would seem to, not allow you to maybe close it if you wanted to. And so it seems like that all has to flow into the whole design for the boulevard and the concept of the boulevard.
That has been discussed,
Yes.
and there's some traffic studies that are being done, and because of the location of this area, it's kind of in the center of everything, so there has been ideas that traffic is actually kind of splitting and going east and going west from that very center point. So we need to look at that traffic-wise some, and that's a discussion that can be had in the future. As Ms. Lowe said, this is just conceptual, just an idea.
Well, we already have, on the north side of the arena, a similar plaza area that gets shut down from certain events.
Yes.
And so, you got one street gets shut down sometime, another street gets shut down sometime. It just seems
You're right.
It may be a little
I don't think there would be
convoluted to get through there.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a time when the city would shut down both of those. In fact, you might see one move to the other side or something like that, but that's a discussion for future time.
And I'll just add that I like the idea of having a mid-block, crosswalk as well. So that I think that would kind of help alleviate some of that. It's to slow down traffic a little bit, but be able to manage pedestrians. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
Tom, I don't know if this would be appropriate. Of course, I don't know if it would be appropriate. But in terms of the crosswalk, again, a mid-level or midpoint crosswalk, again, is a block. And would it be appropriate for us to make a recommendation that there will be at least 2 crosswalks in that, along with this, or is that out of order to do that kind of a?
I think what's before us now is to approve the concept that we would forward. I think that the city will present this concept to ODOT, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for public comment, and that we will get a chance to review it when it comes back to us to see if it meets with what we are hoping will be the approval of the Parks Committee and how it interacts with the park and the convention center. But I am assured, and we were assured by Eric yesterday, that safety will be utmost in everyone's mind about, certainly that would be a controlling factor for an area where we're expecting pedestrian traffic.
Yeah.
So I think we'd have a chance to do that.
Of course, safety is in the eye of the beholder, but so is Amanda here? Is it inappropriate to amend the motion to ask for consideration?
You can propose an amendment if you'd like to. There's a motion and a second on the floor, and so that motion would need to be withdrawn. Otherwise, it would be appropriate for a vote, and then if that vote is denied, you could amend it.
Well, I won't do that if the group decides they don't want to do that. But all I would ask in terms of an amendment is just because an amendment would put an emphasis on the issue, and ask that consideration be given for more than one crosswalk to navigate that street. And I won't, if that's not the desire of this group, then I won't do that.
I can certainly make sure that the designers hear that, and we can get feedback from them, both from the park side and the convention center side, since they're working together to keep their continuity together, and those plans are still coming together.
What's the problem with that kind of verbiage that would just ask as an emphasis that that be considered? Is that problematic to everyone?
I would like to say that I think it's given. There's no one on this committee that's not in favor of any kind of safety issue, and when they do their plan, they have to consider that. They have to consider the crossings. I know there's some definite laws to the amount of feet on a crosswalk, and so I understand the reason for creating the smaller streets so that there can be crosswalks on that street without a median. I think medians are dangerous, very dangerous. So I have a different opinion of a median.
Well, at this point, I'm not raising the issue of the median, I'm raising an emphasis on...
Right, but I can see
But if that's
why-
not the desire of this group, I'll withdraw that
Yeah.
suggestion.
Well, Mike, do you think we would appropriately address this if we vote on the motion that has been made and seconded, and then, what, depending on the result, if you want to propose another motion or an amendment to what's been adopted, we can do that? Would that be okay?
Well, I prefer to do it the other way, but...
Well, then do it however you want.
If that's not the desire...
It doesn't make any difference what the desire is. You do what you want to. What do you recognize. What do you want to do?
Well, I think if the motion is not going to be withdrawn, I think we should vote on the motion.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lowe made the motion, and so she can accept the amendment that is provided by Mr. Dover, or as chairman, you can move forward with a vote on the motion that was made.
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
I am amiable to accept an amendment to the motion that we have in front of us, including that, as on any project, special attention be made to the safety of those crossing the streets as the design progresses. Would that be acceptable?
I don't recall the verbiage. If you say the verbiage one more time, in
Do you
terms of
wanna-
consideration for additional crosswalks.
That we approve the concept as we see it today, and, as in all projects, that emphasis be given on the safety of the crosswalks and pedestrians. Was that my exact wording?
If that is her if that is the amendment to the motion that requires a second again, if he's still...
All right. Then we think that we have a motion that's been seconded, an amendment to that with the permission of the mover and the seconder. So we're ready to vote. All in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the resolution is, as amended, goes forward. All right. Item number 5. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is recommend resolution accepting the MAPS 3 Downtown Public Park Upper Park Demolition Package 2 project M3-P007. This was the first, well, not the first, obviously the second package. The first one was a couple of years ago, but this is the most recent one. I should just start over here. This is project 2 that was done in the park. This is for the block that was nearest to Skydance Bridge. I believe there were 5 structures in there. Those structures have all been removed. It's been graded and grassed and taken care of. It looks really nice. If you've been down there, you can start seeing how the park is beginning to open up. So this is the final acceptance for that demolition package.
Is there discussion?
Just to note that this was approved yesterday in the Park Subcommittee.
All right.
I move that we accept the
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is accepted and adopted. Item 6, David?
Item 6 is recommend resolution accepting the MAPS 3 Downtown Public Park Demolition Package 3 project M3-P010. This is another project that is very similar to the one I just described. It is the next block that was to the north of that. There were several large structures in that. This has been completed, and like I said on the other one, it's been grassed and leveled, and everything looks good, and we are ready to accept this as final and ask that you do.
Kim, did the committee approve this? Yes, they did. Anyone else have questions or discussion? Shall we approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Been moved and seconded that we approve it. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Item 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 7 is recommend resolution approving preliminary report from MAPS 3, Phase 1, Project 3, Sidewalk Improvements, Project M3-W001B. This is the third project in the Phase 1 sidewalk improvements. The Project 1 and 2 are in construction. I don't know if you've seen those around town that are being constructed. This is the final piece, and we have Craig Wallace here today to give us a presentation.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. I am Craig Wallace with Smith Roberts Baldwin, the consultant for Project M3-W001B, which is the third project of Phase 1 for MAP sidewalk improvement. We show the master plan and the different alignments. In this particular exhibit, it does show alignment 1 through 43. We also took into consideration the alignments, proposed alignments for Phase 2. Phase 1 map shows 20 alignments. Originally, as we go through this presentation, you'll see it. We anticipated 17 alignments. We were able to go to 20 alignments based off of the budget and the construction costs that came in. Project 1 included 7 alignments in the north part of the city, northwest part of the city. You can see these different alignments in that exhibit. Project 2 actually went south. Again, we had 7 alignments in that project, and that is also under construction as Project 1 is, with several alignments being worked on and 1 or 2 completed at this time. Project 3, which is preliminary report you're looking at this morning, includes 4 alignments in the north central part of Oklahoma City, or northwest part of Oklahoma City along May Avenue, as well as 122nd. It also includes 2 alignments on the south side of town along Western Avenue, as you see in this exhibit. We also show, just in a graph form, the alignments that are included in this project. You can see alignment numbers 5, 7, 15. We were able to, as I said, extend alignments 18, 19, and 20 as part that were included in the master plan. Some of the examples that show the reason for these alignments being selected as high in the rating scale, intersection improvements here at 59th and May. You also see that the May Avenue alignments that we're looking at in Project 3 will actually cross both I-44 and Northwest Highway, so connectivity is very important as we looked at each alignment within the master plan. Again, we see intersection improvement and connectivity along May Avenue. Desired paths, obviously, were critical in the decision of the alignments. Even though we had a very wet summer and everything stayed green, you can still see a desired path as you look in this the yard where the pedestrians are continuing to travel without sidewalks. Here on Southwestern, you can see connectivity in one slide, as well as another intersection improvement there at Straka Terrace. Transit was very important. I mean, through most of these alignments, you'll see where there's either benches for bus stops, or as this is a transit bus stop improvement, and these will connect to those transit areas. This is along 122nd, connectivity to school, very important. And several of these alignments have that as far as elementary schools along those alignments. The budget, construction budget, 3.270 initially with 17 alignments and about 14.5 miles of sidewalk. As you see, the construction costs, these are actual costs for projects 1 and 2, and then an estimated cost for project 3. And as the note says on the bottom, we were able to increase our alignment miles by 2.01 miles for a total on this Phase 1 projects of 16.49 and 20 alignments. We had initially received our notice to proceed in October, and with this preliminary report for Phase 3, we will turn in 95% plans in the month of September. I hope to have the approval for those in October, where we can put this out to bid in November and receive award of that construction contract in December and completion by August of 2014. This is just a summary again of the budget cost. We actually broke this down so you could see cost per linear foot of sidewalk. The differences, the alignment miles and the sidewalk constructed, you can see where we tried to keep it fairly close, or we haven't tried to keep it close. The way the bids have come in, around 42 with the first project, 49 dollars per linear foot for the second project, and then you see our estimate of cost for project 3. And that's our presentation.
Sue, anything from the subcommittee?
No, we recommend acceptance of this report, and we are very excited that we got to move to Project 3 in Phase 1, because this was a dream. It wasn't a reality until now.
Questions?
Quick question, what percent of, is Phase 1 of all the sidewalks, all the sidewalks? What percentage of all of the sidewalks does Phase 1 deal with?
Okay, and I understand your question. It's just, I believe the master plan actually initially showed 231 alignment miles, or alignments. Then it actually narrowed that down, and David, correct me if I'm off the numbers too much, 171, I believe, were approved on the master plan, and so with Phase 1, we're at alignment 20.
But are you speaking miles? Are you speaking the line items, or are you speaking the budget?
Yeah, in terms of, I'm sorry, I didn't make it clear. There are X number of miles in total sidewalks. What percent of those miles does Phase 1 cover?
We actually have done a summary on that, Mr. Dover, and presented that, but with the 16.5 miles, basically, of Phase 1, with all the alignments that were presented in the master plan, I believe you even reached as high as 100 and something miles, initially trying to, I believe, construct 70 miles. Of the 43 that is shown in Phase 1 and Phase 2, you're probably only close to 25-30%, I think, of the master plan.
Other questions?
Just a question on your last slide there. You're talking about summary of costs, and there's two different numbers. One, cost for alignment miles, example $33, cost for actual constructed $42. Can you explain the difference?
Yes, within the alignments, there's existing structure. In fact, from the time that the master plan started to the time that we actually have plans on the street to build the construction, Oklahoma City requires a certain amount of sidewalk structure to be added to new developments, or if an existing building added the sidewalk through there, that would actually take away from that alignment model, if that makes sense. You know, your alignment...
So some of it was already built for you, you just had to connect.
Right, and so the intent of this project was to build new construction or new sidewalk, and so we obviously didn't take it in consideration. The alignment miles takes in consideration the running lane mile, if you would, of that alignment, where the construction of the sidewalk takes in the actual linear foot of sidewalk that was built within that alignment.
And then one other quick question. I know some of the alignments we do both sides of the street and some only one side, and I don't remember. Can you refresh me on what the...
Yeah, actually, I believe that the rating came from each side of the street. So in other words, if you had a recommendation for both sides of the street, it would be a different priority listing. So in other words, each one of these alignments is just for one side of the street. Oh, I'm sorry, on my table,
Yes.
We had to actually cross for constructability. We had to cross maybe to bring in a closer route to school. And so within those two alignments, we actually had to look at how much existing structure was there, possibly for a cost-reducing measure, the constructability of being able to actually put the sidewalk on that side, and then made sure we tied in that it didn't affect the criteria of the original rating.
So in some of the alignments where it says on the east and west side, you're saying you're on the east side for part of the way and then crossing over on the west side?
That is correct. We would go
We're
in
not
and...
building on the east and west side
That is
parallel?
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
So I'd like to move acceptance of this report.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution approving this preliminary report. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Item 8, David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 8 is recommend resolution approving contract for engineering services with MacArthur Associated Consultants, LLC, for MAPS 3 Phase 2 trail improvements, I-44 West Trail, fee $173,430, project M3-T002. This is Phase 2 of the trails projects. Phase 1 is complete. Actually, Project 1 of Phase 1 is out for bid right now. So this is Phase 2 that is generally down the I-44 corridor from Lake Hefner to the river. And part of this project is to determine exactly where that corridor will be. And this is the initial study that MacArthur is going to do to identify all the alignment for this new trail, because the Trails Master Plan shows a big, thick red line in a general area, doesn't account for every little neighborhood and street and tree and everything. So that's what we will do with this contract. Once this contract is completed, then we will come back to you for engineering actual design contracts. We anticipate that probably being split into 3 different contracts, because this is a lengthy trail. So, as I said, this is for the initial study of that I-44 corridor trail.
Sue?
Just one more comment, that we do expect to get a lot of public input on this, and there'll be several opportunities for that.
And this was approved for bringing forward by your subcommittee?
Yes.
Further questions?
So I move approval of the resolution approving the contract for engineering services with MacArthur and Associates.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Just reminding you that we have stricken item number 9 from the agenda, so we're going to item number 10. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 10 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 3 to contract for engineering services for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Racecourse lighting improvements. Fee increase of $99,500. Project M3-R002. This is the engineering contract for the lighting project that is substantially complete, but it isn't actually finalized and completed. There's still some things that are being done. This construction contract had a longer length than what was in the contract documents, and the contractor is going to be looking at liquidated damages, and that's still something that we're going to have to negotiate through. But the engineer had a representative on site at least 4 hours every day, all this extended period of time, and this is to compensate them for that. So the number you're seeing here should be reduced. I can't tell you how much, but it will be reduced by the liquidated damages that we should get back from the contractor. So this is for extended engineering services due to an extended construction period.
99.5.
Yes.
Everyone understands liquidated damages we would get, extra engineering fees we would pay. Is that right, our lawyer? Okay. All right. Want to make sure we're all together on this. Okay. Are there questions?
I move that we accept the resolution.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution. Further discussion? Bob?
Just one question. What is this number with the increase of just under 100,000 still within the budget?
Yes, it's still within our line item budget for A&E and testing and all that on that line item.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Item 11, David.
Item number 11 is a recommend resolution approving preliminary report for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility, project M3-R004. Very excited to tell you that we're making substantial progress on the design of the Whitewater facility. There's been a model completed, and we have Jeffrey Guston with S2O here today to give us a presentation on the preliminary report.
Jeffrey, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's almost criminal we get paid to do this. It's almost criminal. It's so fun. Everyone we meet with on the project is, open book. They want to work through the problems with us. We have yet to face anyone from a regulatory perspective or otherwise that just hasn't really embraced this project. So citizens of Oklahoma are going to have a great project in front of them when we get it done. So I wanted to just kind of bring everyone up to speed where we're at on our progress. The last 3.5 months, we've completed the preliminary report, and we're a bit ahead on design, and that's the nature of the function that we have to build a whitewater course, essentially, a mini scale of that, and that was part of this process, so I'll give you a little information on that as we go along as well. We've updated our renderings through the process, so you'll see this one. This is looking from 6th Street facing east. You'll see the main facility, and then the whitewater course in the background. There are 2 other buildings. Behind the main facility, you'll see the boathouse, whitewater boathouse, which is right off the river. And then way far down to the east, you'll see the kayak boathouse right there in the background. The plan has developed over the last 3.5 months from a utility perspective. As you can imagine, with the land acquisition and having to consolidate the utilities on the site, there's been quite a bit of movement on just trying to remove the existing facilities out there so that we can come in the next couple of months and start building the facility. So we continue to meet with OG&E, the gas company, and all the other ancillary infrastructure. And to date, we have not had any issues with any of this coming out, so that's good news for everyone. This is a bit more detail on the whitewater course than we presented last time. Again, the buildings and the course are pretty much what everyone has seen in previous presentations. There's another layer of design on top of this, so now we're starting to drive down into how the circulation works, how the patrons will actually move through the site, where the controls are. So you'll see gates around the facility. We do have a natural border around or boundary around the site on the river, and then the inlet on the east. The building, the main building, forms also a boundary to the site, extending from the north side of the main building around Phillips Street and then down 5th all the way to that circular turnaround going out to the inlet is a gate and fence system. So it will be a controlled site. All the patrons will enter still through the front of the building, or front of the site, which is along 6th Street and Phillips. Going through the main building, everyone processes through the building, ticketing, retail sales, locker rooms, and your interior and exterior dining facilities. Another rendering of the site from an aerial perspective. Again, you can start to see here where the boats are queued up along that triangular building right off of the river. Everyone processes again through the main building. You go over to the raft building, grab your gear, you do your orientation, grab your paddles, life jackets, and helmets, jump in the boat, and start paddling towards the conveyor. Get to the conveyor, you're up to the top pond, then you have your choice of the competition channel or the rafting channel, come back down to the bottom. You go through a series of true drops for the freestyle channel and basically repeat cycle. This is the grading plan. Part of what we've done over the last couple of months as well is starting to tie with the infrastructure and the utilities, starting to tie the grades together. It's a huge grading project. We're elevating the east side of the site close to 15 feet. So you'll see a lot of tight lines, almost looks like a gray shaded area along the inlet and the east and southeast sections of the site. You'll see a lot of grading on the interior islands as well. We're trying to take advantage of that natural terrain and create seated areas for spectating. We'll probably have about that inner island that's shaped like a diamond. It's probably about 3/4 of an acre, so we can probably have about 4,000 to 5,000 people out there in an event. This image you probably saw before. This is general circulation around the site. A couple different things here. There's a dark purple, the wider lines which go into the main building, and then also on the east side towards the kayak facility. These are essentially service and emergency access, so fire truck, and then also crane access for the pumps has to go into the upper pond. All the yellow essentially is just a improved path around the exterior of the perimeter of the course as well as the interior of the course. And then the orange represents the continuation of the city trail. Another image looking from the inner competition channel across the lower pond to what you're seeing on the left is the boathouse, and in the background the whitewater building, the main building. Planting plans, we've also focused on vegetation for this, not just basically to stabilize the site, but there's a lot of, again, grade on here, so we have opportunity to bring in vegetation and start to brighten up the place and give it, a really nice manicured feel through the site. So there's a couple, we're essentially sodding the entire site. There'll be a variation of shade trees and some ornamental trees at the entry level, both lit. And then there'll be a series of low-level vegetation all the way from a wetland vegetation up through shrubs. Quickly on the lighting, we're looking at varying levels of lighting, street lighting, parking lot lighting, building lighting. There's path lighting coming through the main entry through the building, so there'll be some accent lighting in the trees and on the pathway. There's 2 bridges that access the site, one again from the main building going over the lower portion of the slalom, or excuse me, the competition and recreational channel, and then one to the far east at the kayak facility, so they'll both be lit as well. And then we're looking at some other alternative lighting overlays that may not be part of the base project, but additional overlays in the future. Course lighting, and then also the entire lower pond, which represents 3/4 of, or half of the facility, lighting that under the channel so that kind of glows at night, because that's where everyone's going to be basically sitting and having the events. That's another image looking back from the main boathouse to the whitewater rafting facility. And what you'll see way off to the corner there is the conveyor and the pump station. And what we're looking at right now, we just started kicking this around the last couple of weeks, is the nature of the pump station is we're lifting a tremendous amount of volume of water from the lower pond to the upper pond. And there's a bit of bleed-off water, so to speak, or surplus, that we can take and backflow over top of the pump station to create a waterfall. So you'll have a visual effect, so we can, it softens it up, it adds, a white noise, so to speak, to the background. We can also project images on it as well. So we're looking at some options there on how we can create a waterfall effect at the pump station. Architecture, the building shapes are pretty much the same, the functions are pretty much the same. We're continuing to go through some gyrations on the interior planning with both the MAPS department as well as the foundation on space planning, issues with offices and things, but for the most part it functions the same. Again, locker facilities, main retail, there'll be a branded retail and then a house retail for the site. Interior, exterior dining, and then basically back of house or management offices for the facility. We are, as part of the goal to have a facility that can expand in the future, we're looking at those opportunities, and part of that is a second floor for this building. So potentially a 14,000 square foot addition to the structure that could serve as a meeting facility, a conference facility, a cultural center, any of these events. It also gives an elevated level to go out on the exterior deck and be able to view the events. So we think it's something important that we need to look for and plan for. Another rendering looking back across the bridges to the Whitewater building. Some of the elevations, the architecture is consistent with what you have already in the Regatta Park, metal panels, glass, very durable materials. These are some of the ancillary buildings. Again, we've covered these. The top building is the rafting storage facility and the orientation pavilion, which represents the overhangs, and then the kayak building. The lower one is the one up on the east side of the site. Both of these are essentially storage facilities, primarily storage facilities for the hard and soft boats for the operations. This is a conceptual massing of the kayak facility. You see in the background is I-35, so we're looking at some interesting ways to take that volume to the right and light it up so it becomes a bit of an icon as you're coming up I-35. Let's quickly go through some of the channel aspects. We do have, going through, we have a recreational channel, which is about 1,300 feet, linear feet. Again, it's for first-time comers out there that want to learn the channel system. The inner channel is the competition, designed 1,100 feet, drops 21.5 feet, designed essentially to accommodate the World Trials and Olympics. Your lower pond is represented by the confluence of the two channels that create a unique feature we're calling the freestyle channel, which takes the combined flow of 1,300 cubic feet of water and essentially sends it through two single drops. That, I can tell you this because I'll get to the model here in a second. We built this model, and one of the things that was just an eye-opener for us was what 1,300 CFS does in one drop, and it will shoot a boat about 12 feet in the air. So here's the model. I'm not sure if I can there's an embed video on this. It doesn't look like I can do that, but we've essentially just constructed and finished the model. I think it was about 30 days ago. We were out in Boulder looking at the model, went through testing. You see David in the background there, and Mike Knopp in a kayak up at the top pond. But it's essentially a 10-scale model of the entire course. And this is the first time that it has really been done full scale of the model. And it told us a lot of interesting things, again, including the drop at the end. But you can actually take this and the scale of the water and pretty much put a flow meter in the water and tell you exactly how fast the water is going to run in real life, where you're going to have to do some fine-tuning. So when it goes into construction, the goal of doing this model is that the guesswork is out of it at this point. So we were very happy with that. And the project budget, just to hit this really quick, we are in budget. You'll see 3 columns. The first column, the short one, is the original MAPS budget from the June 2012. The green column is essentially what we presented to you on pre-design. And the last column, the blue column, is where we are today. We don't have a separate line item here for the actual construction, but we're at $23.8 million for the entire construction on the project, which includes the FF&E, or the fixture and furniture, and then also the public art for the project. The breakdowns are essentially $12 million for the Whitewater course, $4.5 million for the buildings, and another $7 million into the site infrastructure. And then lastly, schedule. Like I said, we're a little bit ahead of schedule on design, and that's by nature of having to build this Whitewater course. You have to do so much design, build it, and then back engineer it. And fortunately, there's not a lot of back engineering going on with it right now because we hit it on spot. So from the course perspective, I think we're very comfortable with not just the perimeter of the course, but what's inside the course right now. So now it's just tying up the loose ends and the architecture, and that's what we plan to be focused on in the next 4.5 months to get us to January for final plans, and then we plan on bidding this thing right after that and hopefully getting into the dirt by April of next year. So, with that, I'll take any questions.
No, we're very excited, and we like having David as our Whitewater poster boy.
I just wanted to make a comment that I had a chance to see that video, and wow, I have things on my Hanukkah list already regarding equipment to ride, so I'm excited.
It's a teaser video. We actually had it professionally done. We're going to be releasing a CD that has all the video on that, potentially a flyover with all the renderings. I mean, what we learned from Charlotte was, just take a second here, everyone understood the Olympic rings, and that's what everyone thought about. And 3 months before we opened up, I think I told you this before, everyone was still focused on the fact it was Olympics, and the citizens were like, okay, so what? We're not going to be able to use it. And then the first 6 months of operation was just re-educating people on what it is. So the more we can do that now, the more people are going to be standing in line when we open this thing up. And I think that's the goal of trying to take the video, trying to do the images. We really need to get the word out. Every time I come in town, I go to a different place, or Starbucks or wherever, and I purposely wear my S2O logo and have a plan in front of me. And I get people to ask me what it is, and I am flabbergasted no one knows this project's coming. So we need to step it up. You know, when we get out of construction documents, there needs to be a full-out marketing. And Mike understands this. We've had conversations about it. So, but good thing is everyone's excited about it. So. Thanks.
I had a couple of questions that came up after I saw the presentation yesterday. Are the only public restrooms the ones in the locker room in the main building?
There are essentially 90% of them in the main building. The 2 ancillary buildings also have a single facility.
Are those public restrooms?
Yes, they are. Everything's public, yes.
Okay. And how does this facility compare to size and capacity of some of the others that have been built?
So we'll stick with Charlotte because it's the only other one in the U.S. And someone just asked me that this morning. In total size, it's smaller. Charlotte is on a 300-acre parcel. To the tree limit, it's 55 acres. So when you look at an aerial, you go to Google Earth, and you look at Charlotte's course, it's 55 acres. It includes parking, course, everything. It's a bit of a miscomparison with what we're doing because ours is an urban environment.
Sure.
Look at our course, it's 12 acres. Facility for facility, we're almost on par with what Charlotte's doing.
As far as the run and the drop and that sort of stuff?
When we calculate length, it's not just the runs, but it's also the lower pond, the conveyor, and the upper pond. So they measure the entire length of the course for each run. Charlotte is roughly, don't quote me on this, I think it's about 4,500 feet in total. We're chomping right around 4,100, I think, so we're very close. Charlotte doesn't have a freestyle channel in the sense it doesn't have these standing waves that we're building in. So there'll be added features into it. What Charlotte has that we don't have in the sense of a course, they have another wilderness channel, they call it, that actually stems off of their recreation channel. So our recreation channel goes around the outside. They have one that actually has a split, a fork, and then it comes back and joins again. And it's just to give additional capacity on the backside, but I don't think we'll miss it.
So capacity, volume of people and all will be able to handle the same sort of...
Yeah, we're looking at, again, don't quote me on this, I think we base it off a peak day, July, Saturday. We're looking at 2,500 people in a day, which Charlotte's about 26.
And is the facility expandable?
It is. The course is not, unless we go to, because of the way the...
More dropping.
The geography, we're hemmed in, if you guys remember, the Fifth Street has a 60-inch sewer main that runs east-west, and we have to go on top of that. When we've had, conceptually, we can do segmented prefab course that can actually go over top of that sewer main without relocating. You just deinstall it if you ever needed to repair the main. The problem is you're not going to get much more than what you've already got in the course, because it's going to be a lower gradient. When you go and you do this, and I encourage you to go to Charlotte, you'll go and you'll get in the rafting channel first. It'll be fun. You go in the freestyle channel. It'll be fun. You go in the competition channel, and you're not going down the rafting channel anymore. People want the excitement. So this has been designed for them to get wet, get up, to understand the product, and get into the competition channel. And that's where everyone wants to be anyhow. That's where all the fun's at. That's where you're going to hit these 5-foot waves, and you're going to class 5 rapids. You get at the end, you're going to hit these 12-foot standing wave. That's really where the fun's at. So to answer your question, you really can expand it, but you're not going to get anything out of it.
Okay.
You're better to actually add dry features to it, to overlap the wet features. So what you're doing already with some of the zip lines and some of the other activity out there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to say, don't forget all of the other things that are there.
Sure.
You know, we have the river.
Do you expect this to be one of, if not the premier facility of its kind in the country or the world?
It'll compare with what we've done in Charlotte. Will it be better? I don't know. It's kind of a different execution. It'll be something that people will come from hundreds of miles away to do. I mean, I have no reason to believe that this would not be a regional draw. The amenities are providing what's already been done out here at the river and the regatta. I mean, and the continued plans for adding things. You're going to have something that, quite honestly, no one else has. I mean, you do have Charlotte. And quite honestly, in the last, Scott and I have been talking about since the last 3 months, we've been contacted by the Dominican Republic. Hawaii wants to build one. Dallas wants to build one. A lot of people are getting interested in this, but no one has one on the drawing table. So you guys will get noticed, certainly.
May I say something? And I'd also like to say about the thoughtful consideration that's been done to make it not just a superb rafting facility, but also to have an area for food trucks, to make it like an overall experience for the meeting facilities, for the gift shop, for everything else that goes along with it. And I think altogether that just makes it really outstanding.
Shall we approve this report?
I move approval.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the preliminary report. Many thanks for your presentation. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Item 12, is it, David?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 12 is recommend approval of the addendum to the Adventure District Line Rail Feasibility Study for the MAPS 3 Transit Modern Streetcar Project, Project M3-S003. If you recall, we had a presentation for the Adventure District Line a couple of months ago, and the streetcar subcommittee has asked that they look at some additional items, and that's why we're coming to you with this addendum. So today we have Mark Dorn from URS as part of the Jacobs team. We also have Lee Nichols here to give us a quick presentation on this addendum.
Thank you. Morning. Just as a recap from the last presentation, we were asked to look at the feasibility of introducing a transit service of some sort along the Adventure District line. We reviewed 4 modes, one being extending the existing service that is out there today. So it's an excursion service. The second mode would be, we looked at what it would take to enhance that service, increase the speeds. A third service would be commuter rail service. So it's technology called a diesel multiple unit. So all those three services are what we call in the industry FRA compliant technology. So that's Federal Railroad Administration compliancy. So they can actually run jointly with freight traffic on a track. And then we also looked at an option for a streetcar to, if it were to extend from the downtown out the Adventure District. One of our key recommendations from that study was that there's an opportunity with, well, I guess if you recall, the corridor has three primary segments. Segment 1 is owned and controlled by COTPA, and they run the excursion service on Segment 1, which I'm forgetting my geography, but from the Railroad Museum up to the Adventure District. And Segment 2 is also controlled by COTPA, and, but there's a freight service serving 2 customers along that line, and there's an opportunity to, because the agreement with Union Pacific is up for renegotiation, the opportunity as part of our recommendation is to include in the new agreement the ability to open up the rights to have operating windows, as we call it, so you can run a service of some sort along Segment 2 and Segment 3, which is from the Harder Yards into Bricktown, which is owned by Union Pacific, but is primarily defunct. So with those recommendations, we were asked to look, well, there was a discussion between members of the Transportation Subcommittee, and there was a technical issue that they, I'm sorry, discussions with them and the Union Pacific, and there was a technical consideration that they asked us to go and review. So if we can go to the first slide. Sorry? Oh, I have it. Okay. If I knew how to do it. Oh, there we go. So maybe I can use the pointer here. So this is a view of the Harder Yards to the east and I-235 on the west, just as you're entering Bricktown. The demarcation between our Segment 2 and Segment 3 is approximately, where it's shown approximately there, just north of the Harder Yards. The technical issue identified by Union Pacific was that they would be concerned about any joint operation of a transit mode on their tracks through the Harder Yards, and what they would like to see is a 25-foot separation of any new track, which is what we show here with the red line on the north side of those blue lines. The blue lines represent the existing track geometry. That's an extension of the Harder Yards. Essentially, that east-west line that you see is where they assemble a train set. So they do all their switching in the Harder Yards, and before they pull a train out, they stack the train up on that east-west line. And that east-west line, again, the light blue, terminates approximately at Lincoln Boulevard. So we have shown what it would take to position a track with a 25-foot separation skirting along the north side of those existing tracks. Now, the 25-foot separation is an industry standard. It's probably even a little more generous than necessary with an FRA-compliant technology. But regardless, this is what it would look like. We have identified it would require one acquisition of one property, which is double-crossed hatch there, just north of the Harder Yards. So it is feasible. It would require a acquisition of a parcel. There's no improvements on the parcel. It's more or less a half-depth lot. In terms of our experience with the UP is that because it's a yard, that when you get into design, they may require more separation, specifically with a streetcar or a non-compliant vehicle technology. And so we came up with another idea, just kind of a back pocket idea for you, with just to make sure it's all possible. But that is depicted by the blue dash line, and the idea is to utilize the First Street right-of-way. And it's an unimproved right-of-way. There's minimal uses. There's some storage there about halfway, but it would be easily accommodated, the access to any of the properties along here, but and it would be a fairly economical solution to bring the transit line from the corridor into Bricktown. And so so we did prepare a full concept design set of where passing tracks could be and whatnot, and just a couple other highlights are the connection into the intermodal hub. If you recall, there was 3 options there. The red line is the direct connection. We called option A. That is something we would recommend if it was a commuter rail service coming in from the Adventure District. The other is the green line, which is kind of the back-end operation, which you would maybe consider with an extended or enhanced excursion service. And then on the streetcar technology, we would enter the street and join the recommended streetcar line in Bricktown, and that would, a service from the Adventure District would come into Bricktown, and then if you see on Gaylord, your whole orientation is, north is to the right of, as always. It would enter Gaylord and have a stop in front of the intermodal hub for the streetcar technology, and that would be the ending and beginning of your service run for a streetcar style mode. Just one other kind of critical point, pinch point, I should say, along the corridor is in the vicinity of 8th and 10th Street. There's the oil refinery, and so and this is in segment 2, again, where the COTPA owns the tracks in the corridor. So with a compliant vehicle, it would be feasible to bring the transit service through this area. But with the streetcar, it becomes a little more tricky. You would have to come along, and again, we're just looking for hip pocket, solutions for you to resolve technical issues. But with the streetcar technology, you have with the oil refinery, you have a siding on the east side of the tracks, as you see right in the middle of the screen. And then just north of 10th Street is another siding serving another customer on the west side of the tracks. And so mixing a service track with freight and a streetcar is not easily done. It's been done, but it's not easily done. So another idea would be to capitalize on the flexibility of a streetcar technology, and you could enter the street right-of-way there at the intersection of 10th and Martin Luther King, and then skirt around the one customer and then re-enter the ADL corridor. So really, that's just some of the highlights. I could entertain any questions, if you have any.
Nathaniel, or Zane, you guys have thoughts from the committee, subcommittee?
Well, we approved this, we recommended it, and we're pleased to see, thank you, Mark, for presenting this. This is what we were hoping to see with the addendum follow-up to the original full study. So. Zane, do you have anything?
Further discussion? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this addendum to the Adventure District Line Rail Feasibility Study. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
I guess that brings us to new business. David, any new business or any member, new business?
I don't have anything.
Okay, we've heard from several of the subcommittees already, but this is the opportunity for subcommittee to give their report. Nathaniel, let's start with you. Anything happened for you this week?
We did. We passed a route that basically passed itself. No, there was much discussion. We had a lot of public input Tuesday morning. City council and other people speaking for and against, but we really touched on a lot of topics. But at the end of the day, we had one abstention because of a conflict, but we were able to pass the route nonetheless. So what we saw last meeting is what we're getting as far as the route framework. But yeah, it was a great day for streetcar, and I want to just thank everybody that was involved with that, all the work from consultants and volunteers to get that through. And I think it was a very important day also as far as education. I still heard a lot of things that kind of show that there's still a lot the community doesn't fully understand, which is understandable. We haven't had this before, so we hope to continue to really state the case for what we're trying to achieve, which is long-term a regional transit system that uses all modes. And we're very proud of the fact that it really started that day. So,
well, congratulations. Do any other subcommittees want to give a report today? Anyone have anything to offer that we haven't talked about already? Kim?
I would just like to report that at our subcommittee meeting yesterday for Parks, we went over our work group and individual reviews of the Hargraves draft master plan and are moving forward toward an acceptance with hopefully within the next months of that plan and moving forward.
Great. Mike?
Yes, the Seniors Wellness Center Subcommittee met this week, and first I want to thank those of you who were able to attend the workshop last week. It was very productive. I was very happy the way it went. In terms of turnout, we had 7 of our 9 subcommittee members that were also able to attend the workshop, and I think it was very fruitful, and I think it provided some guidance to the subcommittee from the council. I think I'm excited about going forth. If you may recall that the council has already approved negotiations with 3 potential partners. That has not changed. That will continue. And so, but some things that were resolved in terms of consensus from the council in terms of their desires, and one of them was the importance of the aquatics element that some of us were very happy about. Another was the kind of the age recognition for utilization was reaffirmed at 50 years and older. I
applaud that.
I'm sorry?
I applaud that.
Yeah. But going forth, the city staff, David and his staff will be in contract negotiations with Healthy Living, Inc., Oklahoma City County Health Department, and North Care Community Mental Health Center. And we're hoping that by our November advisory board meeting that we might even have a suggestion to move forward with that first partner. So it was very productive and very pleased the way things are going.
Thank you, Mike. I thought all of us were encouraged. Many others went to the workshop as well, members of the subcommittee, and Gloria and Mike spoke. And I'll just say one of the most encouraging things was that at the conclusion of it, after hearing what everybody said, the council sent the project back to the subcommittee and were very faithful to the process that's been established and said, bring us a plan. And so I think we all felt an encouragement of that, what I'll say, vote of confidence for your subcommittee, Mike and Gloria. So all good. Anyone else? Well, Sue and I and others had a convention center subcommittee, and David may want to elaborate on this, but I'll just say we saw the first concept design. We had a good crowd there. The positives of it were that it will fit on the site, and that the site will accommodate future expansion and perhaps even development. The site will also accommodate a convention center hotel if one is needed. The concept that they brought us would be within the budget, and that's unusual in subcommittee meetings for somebody to come in and say we can do this within budget. So we're feeling good about that. There were a couple of issues that were discussed by the committee, and that is that we'd like to have more space for exhibition halls and more meeting space. And so those comments were all received, and they'll go back, and we expect to see something that we may even be able to vote on in a month. But all in, it was a very positive meeting on our part, and lots of discussion. But like Transit, we feel like we're moving forward. Any other subcommittee? Sue, did you want to add anything to that? Okay, informational items. You want us to read them, or you want us to tell us about them?
I can just go over them briefly for you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
We have several informational items in here. Item A, if you recall, the choice that the advisory board made as far as vice chairmanship was that it would rotate, and so now it's Sue Hooper is the vice chair.
Congratulations, Sue.
Item B is a Whitewater facility acquisition map, and you can see that on your screen, and I believe you had that in your packet. Making some progress on that, but the blue pieces are the ones that we currently have. The orange ones are ones we have contract, and the red ones have gone into litigation, and they're at various stages. So we can move on to the park. The park acquisition map hasn't changed in a while. If you recall, the dark blue is what we currently own. The light blue is ODOT property, which will be exchanged in a previous agreement that just hasn't been executed. And then the brown is the I-40 ramp property that is still being looked at as far as title and ownership issues. So actively working on those. Then items D, E, F, and G are real estate purchase issues. D and E are for the Whitewater, F is for trails, and G is first parcel with the convention center. Then item H is the acquisition map for the trails, and this is the piece from Meridian out to council. There's been some challenges on this one because it's right there where the river is, and because some of the descriptions are listed as to the center of the river, and the river has moved in 20 or 30 years, there's title issues. There's also title issues with probate and things like that. But we're working through that. As I previously stated, I think the plans are completed. We're just waiting to complete this right away. If we could go on to the next one, Karen. And we have the acquisition map for the second piece, the western piece of the trails. And I believe that P3 should actually be acquired now. I'm not sure, is that right, Amanda? Was there one that was, it's not a big deal, but we've got several that are in kind of the same position.
There are additional ones that are under contract, so we're just waiting on closing and working through those title issues.
Okay. Then let's see, that was I. Then item J is the purchase of the docks that we went out as a procurement item, and I'm glad to say that those are being constructed yesterday and today. They're actually in the water, and they will be used next week for one of the events that the boathouse has out there. Then item K, you probably saw that in the paper, that the city was awarded a Tiger 5 grant, and Nathaniel might want to speak more to that a little bit, but it's for the hub construction.
Just a quick comment. Yesterday, we rightly stressed the importance of working with Public Works on the hub, in particular how it interfaces with the streetcar on Gaylord, and that was a particular concern with our group yesterday, and so we look forward to having a lot of kind of joint meetings with the appropriate people and getting that information.
I'd like to add to that, it's with the federal grant, the Tiger grant being brought to Oklahoma City, that's federal recognition now of what we're doing with the streetcar and transit in Oklahoma City.
Great. All right, those are the informational items. David, did you have anything that we've forgotten to mention that you want to talk about in your update?
Well, we covered a lot today. We didn't mention much about the fairgrounds. The Phase 1 parking is still under construction, and the Expo Center design continues. We should be bringing you a preliminary report with on that soon. I think we've touched on pretty much everything else.
All right. Well, that brings us to item, is that 17? My Roman numerals are not as good as they were when I was in the third grade. Are there any comments, any additional comments by the board?
The only comment that I had was, certainly in the spirit of helping market our whitewater facility that's under design, if staff was able to get that video on our Maps 3 page on the city's website, I think it would energize a lot of other people to maybe get involved in a sport they've never thought about.
Agreed. Any comments from staff? David, Amanda, Mark, anything? Should we at least announce for everybody's scheduling purposes, you guys, the meeting dates that we're projecting for November and December, where the fourth Thursday is going to be a tricky day?
That's right. It's essentially moved up a week in November, December. We'll send out notices.
Just in your planning for the rest of the year, we will be looking at the third week rather than the fourth in November and December. Okay? All right. Opportunity for citizens who are here that would like to be heard. Mike Mize, you're a citizen. You want to be heard? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Nays? We're adjourned. Thank you.